Dearest Mom and Dad, I don't know exactly what to say or how to tell you that I am a prisoner of war. I want you to know that I pray often for you folks at home and also for all us fellows here in the prisoner of war camp. I know that with God's kind care and protection, I will come home to you. I'll close for now, hoping that this letter will reach you and you will know that I am safe. Your loving son, Arden. February 11th, 1951, Sunday, 10 a.m.
I'm Arden Rowley, and I graduated from Mesa High School in 1948. Into the summer, I enlisted in the United States Regular Army. The Korean War started just about a month after I got to Fort Lewis. The 2nd Division was shipped off to Korea on the 17th of July, 1950. My company almost immediately was put into the lines in combat. On the night of November 30th, we had to leave the convoy because the Chinese had the entire road and a pass blocked. And they were firing from the ridges on both sides of that road. And the next morning, a sergeant and I had been isolated from the group. And then 8 Chinese came up the hill toward us, and we were taken on the morning of December 1st. 333 men of my battalion were taken prisoners. And in the final analysis, out of those 330 that were taken prisoners, 117 of us came home.
Yeah, my grandpa was he was a hero to a lot of people. He's the most patriotic person I know, and he instilled that in us because of what he had been through, and it's exciting that he's got this chance to go to Korea and especially take Cayden, his great-grandson, with him, and I think it'll be an awesome adventure for both of them.
I really don't know a lot about South Korea, to be honest, but I'm pretty excited for them now, and I think it's important that they kind of see the world through a different lens.
You know, a little nervous, never been overseas like that before, but of course it'll be fun going with my grandpa and learning more about the Korean War, because I really don't know a whole lot about it, so I think that'll be a really good experience. It'll be a lot of fun.
Family's really important, definitely. Grandpa loves to be a part of everything, loves to join us, and he'll be at anywhere we invite him to come, so we're grateful for that.
So after I graduate high school, I'm going to I'll serve a mission for my church, and that's 2 years long. And then after that, I'm thinking to some field of engineering is what I'll be studying, but I'm not exactly sure which field yet.
Greater love hath no man than this, that a man laid down his life for his friends. I built this Korean War Veterans Memorial in 1997, and so I got the flagpole and I had the monument carved and put it in place. Veterans Day 1997. My dear wife, Ruth, she started me on this Uncle Sam collection 35 or so years ago. I call this my war room. It not only represents my military service, but it represents my relationship with Korea. It's my life. An adventure that's almost hard to describe.
So I worked really hard last summer, and my team made it to the state championship game, but we ended up losing that. Losing that game was just motivation for not just me, but the rest of my team to work even harder to get to where we need to be, the state championship game. I'll always be playing basketball just because I love it, and I think what I'm doing now is helping me learn hard work and learn how to work with others, and teaching me that dedication is important, and then I can use that later in my life.
This is our chapter flag. I think I had this made, and it's been fixed a few times.
They commonly refer to us as the Forgotten War, but we as individuals call it the Forgotten Victory.
I remember even somebody wrote a book chapter, The Korean War, the first war we lost.
Yes.
And that's a bunch of nonsense.
Yes.
Because the victory was that we saved South Korea from communist aggression. And South Korea, the Republic of Korea today, is one of the strongest nations in the world. And we have the closest alliance with Korea than any other country in the world. The United States does.
Well, when I was in Korea, there was chimneys sticking up where buildings was. Everything was flat.
Yeah.
My wife and I went back. I got her by the hand in Seoul, and I says, look at this. It looks like New York City. Skyscrapers going, everything was lit up like a Christmas tree.
All right, we're here at the El Paso, Texas airport. I'm getting ready to leave, go through security, and then head over to Phoenix, where I will head to LA, and then finally to Korea. Here in Phoenix, went and picked up Grandpa. Anything to say, Grandpa?
Howdy.
All right, we're here in LAX. All right, we're just getting onto the plane. Wish I could go in first class over there. Grandpa just landed in Korea. Both pretty tired from the long flight because it was. Oh, Grandpa's not tired. I am. I've never seen anything like this before, and it's just an airport. Pretty impressive.
Well, what a great way to start off this Monday morning. So again, good morning everyone. My name is Amy. It is my greatest pleasure to finally meet you all face to face and to be here together. We cannot wait to spend the next several days with you and show you all the wonderful things that Korea has for you.
Cayden, he's really a neat kid. Of course, I think all my great-grandkids are, but and I think probably this experience will be great. And he'll just learn a heck of a lot about sacrifices that men like his great-grandpa made to save a country from communism, and the reason for it, the good things that came out of it, and the many, many sacrifices that were made, that 36,000 men who gave their lives. And I think it'll probably be one of the most valuable experiences of his life. The prisoner of war story is a sad story of men who tried to hold up under the most difficult circumstances. The story of the first 8 months of my experience as a prisoner of war was one of death, disease, malnutrition, starvation, near starvation, and sometimes even freezing to death.
He's told stories to me and my family about different things, but I've never seen it in person like that, talking to a bigger crowd like that, and it was really a cool experience because you could see how everybody was emotionally connected to this whole thing, and hearing a first-hand story of how it was being there in the war really touched a lot of people, including me, and now I want to keep learning and keep knowing more about him and his experience.
The only photograph of me in Korea, that's me right there. This 3.5 rocket launcher was put into production 15 days before the Korean War started. And we were handed a bunch of these as we got on the ship. Our platoon leader, Lieutenant Reed, I was his driver, this is my Jeep. And he handed this bazooka to Les Burris. He handed a 5-pack of ammunition, rockets to Robert Myers. And I just happened to be standing nearby. And that's the only picture I have of me in Korea. Burris was wounded in that day's fighting and was evacuated. Myers stayed with us. 330 men of my battalion were captured, and he was one of them with me. In our second POW camp, February of 1951, he along with hundreds of others died. 1,600 men died in about a 3.5, 4-month period there. And he was one of them that we buried there.
Oh, there's the tower. Yeah. Oh man, that is insane. So we're just like right underneath inside this building, tiny, right underneath there. We're here at the National Cemetery, and I didn't really know what was going on at first, but then someone told me to go up with my grandpa. They handed me these white gloves. I was still kind of confused as to what was going on.
I understand that this tomb that we have conducted this ceremony of putting the 3 hands full of incense into the cauldron is the equivalent of our unknown soldiers' grave in Arlington Cemetery in Arlington, Virginia. And this is certainly a precious grandson of mine, and it's an honor to have him here with me, taking part in these occasions.
So it was a really, really great experience. It was really cool to be able to do that with him because I know how much this means to him. And every moment I spend with him is growing our relationship stronger and growing my respect for him and respect for those who have fallen even more.
Korea had been under the thumb of Japan for so many years. By the time the Korean War started, they only been out from the thumb of Japan for less than 5 years. And then they just were plunged into this complete chaos of war. Thousands and thousands of refugees being pushed to and fro by the battles of war. And they didn't have time to settle down during that whole 3-year period. They were busy just keeping alive.
It's really interesting learning more about the history and the culture of the Korean people, especially going through this museum, looking at all the different artifacts and things that they made. They were a disciplined people that understood that working hard paid off in the end. And it's obvious to see that after the war, how much economic growth
that carried over to after the war, and they used that same discipline to make this miracle happen in Korea.
Exactly.
What impresses me most is just everything about Korea, I think, is probably the most disciplined nation on earth, perhaps.
In the US, we hear about all this craziness going on with North Korea, but for thousands of years, it was only one Korea. We think about them as 2 separate countries, but in reality, they're one, and they got split north and south through what was a civil war. That kind of separation is like losing half of what makes you, you.
hoped we could open some other day. We could have a more communication with the North Korean people. Current government are more generous. They willing to talk with the North Korean government. So we are pretty open. And also many countries, they try to help us to talk with the more with the North Korean government. We'll see what happens.
As soon as I got off the bus at the JSA area, a lieutenant colonel met me and grabbed me, put me on a little bus, and we went down to the Bridge of No Return. The Bridge of No Return is the bridge that Chinese communist trucks with us aboard came south, and we drove across that Bridge of No Return right here to Panmunjom, where we were released.
At the DMZ, you walk out on this balcony, and there it is, North Korea, right there. It was really surreal to be able to be there and see it with my own eyes.
Appreciate you. I'm Arden Rowley, Korean War veteran. This is my great-grandson, Cayden. He's 17.
It's good to have you here, sir.
Thank you. I'm going to get in on. It looks like there's only one seat on this side. Crank that AC up to max.
My grandpa and I got kind of like a VIP tour, I guess. These US soldiers drove us around in a car further, deeper into the DMZ, and we got to go down right next to the Bridge of No Return, and that is where the US soldiers, the prisoners that were in North Korea, they were returned across that bridge.
The day we came across that bridge in those trucks, we couldn't help but think about some 3,500 men who didn't come back with us, who died in the POW camps.
The day he was released, he crossed that bridge, and so it was really special to be able to go there with him, and that's the actual bridge that he was freed on.
Quite frankly, one of the reasons I enjoy so much coming up here is to relive that experience, which was one of the happiest moments of my life, and to honor those who didn't come back with us.
Been traveling around all week, doing different things, going to museums, temples, sightseeing, everything. And I haven't been able to play basketball for a while, and I haven't been able to do much exercise or anything. So I heard that there was this court out here, and some guys like to come play here sometimes. So I thought I'd check it out, see if I could get some games in, come here and play.
Oh my gosh, that is crazy. And we're 486 meters in the air, and it goes higher. Now we are literally in the cloud that was just seen. So I finally found out where our photos go when we take them. So my sophomore year of high school, I took a photography class to learn, how to see things, how to see lines and patterns that help make a photo better. So that was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. My mom has a pretty nice camera. That's the one I've been using taking pictures here around Seoul. So that's been helpful for this trip especially. We took a train from Seoul down to Korea's second largest city, Busan. It was a moment to catch my breath and think about how awesome the trip had been so far, and all of the stories my grandpa told from the war suddenly felt more real. Everyone in Korea is only a generation or two removed from the time that the country was completely decimated. So to see the city of Seoul was impressive, but it was also nice to take in some of the views of Korea's countryside on our way there. Busan is another giant modern city surrounded by mountains, but this one is right next to the ocean. So we decided to go down and check out the beach.
I had no idea this beach was here.
I was learning so much about my grandpa. This was my first time in Busan, but I learned it wasn't his.
Oh yeah, I landed in Busan here on July 31st. We got off that boat on a cruddy looking wharf with buildings that were almost dilapidated. And what a difference. There's absolutely no comparison.
The statue of King Sejong, do you know about that?
He's the one that created the alphabet, right?
Yes. He invented Korean alphabet so that people began to write.
That became a great awakening, it had to be.
Absolutely, you got the point. And they began to write about things, and that became the source of democracy.
So him creating the alphabet and giving it to everybody really helped people progress, I guess.
And so that's, I think, is the origin of democracy in Korea.
So he gave the idea of we the people can
Yes.
have power.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. So in 1961 until 1979, that's the era that Korea actually industrialized and modernized. Yeah. Now we are the 11th largest economy in the world. Wow. But your great-grandfather knows 1950 that there was nothing, right?
Pretty much.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah.
Look at that, That's the Seoul in 1971.
Wow.
Korea is now the largest production country of microwave, refrigerator.
It's really crazy to see how when they first started deporting goods,
Yes.
it was just dolls and toys and things like that. And you come over here and you see all this new at the time, but this newer technology.
So this is the first major car that Hyundai manufactured. It's called Pony, and it still runs in Latin American country. Yes, yeah. This is the place that we were in, the center of the Seoul capital city.
Wow.
And this guy, that picture there portrait, he died because of the tear gas. They shoot the tear gas. Yes.
Tear gas.
And I think that hits his chest, and he died after several days. Oh. So it was 1987, and that ignited the whole country into the anti-military dictatorship demonstration like this. And that's the year that military junta decided to transfer the power to the civilian government. That's the year that changed the whole thing in Korea. Democratization.
Wow. It's amazing.
And the final collapse of the military dictatorship. We joined the democracy with the other countries.
Yep. I learned a lot from my trip to Korea, but one of the major things that I learned is hard work pays off. South Korea was devastated by the war in 1950, but by working hard, they were able to become one of the most developed countries in the world and succeed economically. I just kept thinking to myself, how did they do so much in such a short amount of time?
We started from zero, almost like a 94th in 1963 in the world rank, right? And now we are ranked number 7 in the world.
Wow.
That is amazing.
So it's like down here, you started at the bottom, and now you're here.
Yep.
It's a song by Drake in the US.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What is the name of the song?
Started from the bottom, now we're here.
Start from the bottom, now here.
Yep.
Now we're here. What was that?
That could be like a theme song for Korea.
Now we're here.
I think I heard it. Can you sing? a little
Oh, I
bit?
can't sing.
No, you cannot.
No.
Oh, can you dance?
No.
Come on.
I can't dance.
Oh, Gangnam Style, right? Yeah.
To be simple, K-pop is like music from Korea, and you start to call it K-pop like in 2007 or 8.
Right. So like concerts and things like
Yeah,
that, or
and-
perform in front of people.
Yeah, songs, the title songs, they have their own dancers, and they make it like a stage performance other than just a music.
I want you to see this T-34 tank here, Cayden. The North Koreans are brought, when they invaded South Korea, they had about 200 of these. Robert E. Myers was a member of a bazooka team, a rocket launcher team, that destroyed 3 of these on September 1st, 1950. The 3.5-inch rocket launcher could knock out any armor in the world at the time, and so that weapon became the enemy of this tank. Remember the bazooka team that I told about at my home. I told the story of the Battle of Yongsan. Robert E. Myers, he was the ammunition bearer. They knocked out 3 T-34 tanks on the 1st of September. And he became a POW with me and died in February of 1951 in the POW camp, starvation disease. Well, Robert, this is for you. Put it right below your name here.
I noticed some people staring at us as we were walking around, and I originally thought that it was just because we were foreigners. But then this one lady I noticed was looking at my grandpa's hat and came up and gave him a big hug and shook his hand and wanted to take a picture.
When you see somebody that seems so grateful that they'll grab your hand and almost kiss your hand, it's just a feeling of gratitude that you played such an important role, and for people to be that grateful.
문재인 정부는 국제사회와 공고히 연대하면서 북한이 불장난을 멈추고 평화와 공생의 길로 돌아오도록 계속 유도하고 설득하고 압박할 것입니다. 한반도의 항구적 평화체제를 구축하기 위한 노력을 결코 포기하지 않을 것입니다.
Well, it's sure good to visit with you.
It's good to be here.
Evans Smith.
90 years old, it's good to be here.
Well, I was taken a prisoner December 1st, way up north in the Chinese Communist camp.
All right. Well, I'll come in as a replacement for you.
In 51.
Yeah. Bring him 51 in April.
You leave your grandfather behind.
Rock star.
Oh, mercy.
I often think of the 36,000 servicemen who gave their lives during the Korean War, and I wonder how they would feel about the sacrifice they made. But you know, I'm certain in my heart that if all of them, whether they died in combat or whether they died in POW camps, that they would all say, yes, indeed, the sacrifice was worth it, if they knew what Korea is like today from the rubble of war so many years ago. Thank you.
There's very few veterans of the war around anymore, and when they're gone, no one will be left to tell their stories. But I'm glad he has this group of guys that he shares this bond with.
When I visit Korea, many people thank you for your service, and I want them to know, anybody to know, that it was a great honor to be part of the saving of the Republic of Korea from communism so many years ago, fighting for freedom's cause.
After seeing what Korea is today, it really makes me wonder what would have happened if heroes like my grandpa didn't help them out during the Korean War. South Korea has grown so much since the war. They've had over 200 years of economic growth within the last 60 years of development. The United States and Korea will always share a special bond together because of the sacrifices that they made.
The day I arrived back in Mesa, Arizona from Korea, I was put on the back of a convertible and horns honking and police sirens blaring, passing down Main Street. As we passed everybody's drugstore, that moment was the beginning of Ruth's and my relationship, because she was working at a drugstore that day and saw that cavalcade of cars. You know what? I consider this POW experience absolutely the best blessing that I ever had. The tour of duty in Korea was a year. Well, I stayed 2 years past that. If I had come home at the end of my tour of duty,
you wouldn't have met your wife. You wouldn't have had your wife.
I would not have married Ruth, that sweet Ruth Martin. The moment that I was introduced to her, that became another very defining moment, because that moment became the beginning of a 57-year relationship. I certainly know that this experience with my great-grandson has been another defining moment in my life, because I'm probably not going to be here much longer, and to be able to have him here, and so his understanding of not only my experience, but the Korean War itself and the Korean people, and what they've been able to do from the rubble of war to this moment. I'm certain that he will make sure not just his immediate family, but the rest of my family, which is a pretty large family, will know about his experiences here with his grandpa, and it's a very positive thing for both of us. Here's a 17-year-old kid, and this kind of adventure is unique. Doesn't happen to very many people, but this is something that he will really treasure, I think, the rest of his life.
I think that'd be actually really cool to be able to do trips like that all the time and go and take pictures and experience new things, experience new cultures and places, and be able to capture that and bring it back to show to people.
been a few weeks since we got back from South Korea. Invited families and friends to come over, and I'm doing kind of a photo exhibition of the photos I took during my awesome trip to South Korea. Now that I've been there and I've seen the connection that South Korea has to America, I can see how much the South Koreans want peace and want to prosper and help others. They've gone from being the one receiving the help to giving help. They've done so much for the world now that they're so high up there economically, and we should be celebrating the victory and celebrating the growth that South Korea has had. Really glad I was able to show that through some of my pictures.
I really appreciate you sharing this, Cayden, and I think it's so important that youth today realize the cost of the sacrifice. Because while my dad was in World War II, my mom delivered their first baby by herself while my dad was over fighting for their freedom. So it just really meant a lot to hear that tonight. Thank you so much.